I said, hey, yo, what's good? And salute to all my YouTube land people in the building. Excuse me. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to J Rock Sports Talk. I got another good one for you here, man. This is gonna be another reaction. You know, uh, yeah, I had took a break from the basketball talk and stuff like that. Um, for these past few days and everything. Um, I remember me, KB, and BigDogg, and salute to DFJ Hoops and Sid from Threes on Fire. We was all talking and stuff. That was the last thing basketball related that I was speaking about. But I gotta react to this one, man. I'm gonna make another video. I still want to get into my Miracle Run series. I do have a great team that I want to talk about as far as for baseball. So just stay tuned for that. I'm still gonna do that video. But before I get to that, I gotta get to this, right? So salute to BigDogg. He made a video, he made a live stream on his channel. And he was talking about super teams. Now this is kind of an extension of what we were talking about on that live. Um, we were talking about super teams and stuff like that. And matter of fact, before I even get into that, right, I just want to say, for those of you that have been here, or for those of you that are new, or more importantly, for those of you that are new, I don't mess with LeBron James. Let me just, before I even get into this video, understand that I don't like LeBron James. I don't like what he represents about basketball. I don't mess with dude. All right, he's taking shortcuts. He's been constantly disrespectful. He's a bad. He shows a terrible sportsmanship. All right, I don't rock with dude. You know what I'm saying? He's a sore loser. I don't mess with him. He stacks the deck, and then like I said, he ushered it to me. Since a lot of people want to say he's the best player of this era, which I don't agree with that, but it is what it is. But he ushered in this era of disrespect. So I ain't got no words for dude. I ain't got no rap for dude. To me, he's Mr. Unrankable, Mr. 5000, all of that. I don't like LeBron James. Okay? I'm getting that right off the bat. You want to click off the video? By all means, go ahead. You want to dislike the video? By all means, go ahead. But I don't mess with LeBron James. I don't like him. Okay? I don't like how he's went about winning championships and stuff like that. Okay? I don't mess with him. So, but I do have to kind of be fair, and I am going to be a little bit fair to him in this video, even though everything that he's done still leaves him. As far as for the GOAT debate, you're not rankable in that debate, bro. And the only way I'll consider him, he gotta apologize. All right, he wants to say, "Oh, I play with minimum guys," and all of this nonsense, bro. You gotta go on an apology tour. All right, you gotta apologize, and you gotta tell people that you don't think you the GOAT and that other players should be respected. Until he does that, I ain't got no words for dude. But anyway, it's not entirely about him, but I want you to understand where I'm going with this video. Because they are eventually, when you bring up super teams, you got to talk about LeBron. That's how it is. Um, but at the same time, like I said, I'm going to try to be a little bit fair. Even though I don't rock with him, I don't root for him. But I'm going to try to be a little bit fair. But I got to speak on this because homie Sid, he brought up a great point, which I 1000% agree with. 1000%. So I'm going to let these guys talk, and then as we progress through the video, I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts and my feedback. So let me go ahead and highlight that. Here we go. But like I said, let me just go ahead, give my respect. Salute to BigDogg, that whole behind the bench crew, who was Hendo. You know what I'm saying? The sporting page, salute to you. My man DBZ. Everybody that tunes in, what I'm saying, salute. And, salute to Cheyenne, Rap God. Other good supporters that be in there. We all be talking basketball and stuff like that. But, yeah, this whole super team thing, I think, Big Dog he's gonna mention a great point, which I do agree with. But even though I agree with, that doesn't mean that a super team can't be considered in another way, which I will get into later in the video. So I hope you all enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Sit back, relax. I don't know if I'm gonna have the whole video play out, and I didn't hear the whole video. I listened to maybe about 25 minutes. So if I do go beyond that point, everything is fresh. But I did hear. Once I heard this one part, I said I gotta speak on this because I kind of disagree with Big. I could see where he's coming from, but I disagree with Big Dog. So anyway, without any further delay, let's get into the video.
Hey, what's good? What's good, y'all? This is boy Big Dog Talk Sports. Got my boy Sid, Threes on Fire podcast. Hey, say what's up to the people.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sid from Threes on Fire.
Let me do this. Okay.
Glad to join up with Big Dog. We're going to have this discussion, man.
Yeah, y'all, we're going to talk about super teams. What is a super team? What's your thought on super teams? So, by your definition, what is a super team?
All right, so for me, there's
Okay, before he gets into the now you know what? I'm gonna let him get into the definition. I'm gonna let him talk.
many different ways you can have a super team. It's not just one way. You know what I mean? So one way is, obvious way is to just gather up a bunch of superstars and throw them on a team. You know what I mean? The same way LeBron, Bosh, and Wade did, or the same way that the Celtics did. As long as these players are in their prime or relatively in their prime, that would constitute to a super team. Another way to have a super team is to have a team that's like a team that went to the finals, and then the next year they go pick up somebody else that's like a superstar to add on to their team. And it's like, damn, you already had a finals level team and you picked up a superstar. So, and then the third way, I guess, a super team could be built is if you somehow lucked up and draft three dudes that just all three became superstars or something of that nature.
All right, so I have a question there.
Okay.
So when a super team is created,
All right. Well, I forgot Big Dog doesn't give his definition, but I'll give you. I'll say this right. I think a super team can be classified as, for the most part, this has happened throughout NBA history. It's not. Nothing is ever a perfect science. I think Sid brings that up. You know, you still got to play. You still got to go out there and compete. But you know, there have been teams that have gotten players at a certain point where you might can call them a super team, but you know, they mentioned, you know, even whether you win or lose, that doesn't mean you didn't have a super team. But I'll say this, right? I think a super team is when you have at least two, I would say at least two top 5 players on your team, and then you surround them with at least, I want to say, I gotta be careful here. I'll say at least maybe 2 high quality role players, right? And see, that's why I always say, like, there's levels to this. Like, we can't classify everybody as a superstar because we gotta classify. There's one level below superstar, and that's a star. And a superstar level player is a player that is gonna be, you know, all NBA, first team, you know, lead you to either round of the finals, whether it be the conference finals or the finals. You might get over the hump. You understand what I'm saying? You might win a championship. You might not, but he's going to have good production. That's what I think about when I think about a superstar. A star level player is kind of like right below that. He might get you to the second round. He might even have a good run and get you to the finals, you know, conference finals. He's not going to do enough to get you over the hump. Maybe his play might dip a little bit in the postseason. Um, he might be on the All NBA. You know, he might make second team, maybe a first team here and there. You know, you could definitely identify. Then after that, you got all star level players who might lead the team to like the first round, second round, might make an All NBA third team, All Defensive second team. You know what I'm saying? Be considered one of the, one of the around the top guys in the league. Not necessarily the best. You know, stuff like that. You can point it out and you can tell who the superstars are. I think a lot of it has to do with, like I said, just how your play is, offense and defense, how you're impacting winning. You know what I'm saying? Like I think a good example of that is, when you look at Derrick Rose, he at his prime he would probably be classified as a star. Not quite enough to be a superstar, I think, because he did have one really good year, and unfortunately for him, he did go up against a super team. But I think you can classify a super team. I feel comfortable in saying this. Two 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 superstars, two top five superstars, and then you surround them with at least two high quality role players. You understand? You can have two good quality role players, but I don't know if that would be a super team. Um, but two high quality role players where they can help a team, like two players that could really help a team wherever they go. You understand? And I'm not in the business of calling everybody the super team. Big Dog is gonna mention that, and I agree with him. And I don't think every team that wins is a super team. I'm not gonna say that. He gets into that later, and I agree with that. Like we can't, and see that's where I think he's coming from. Just not calling teams super teams because of, you know, because they just were good. I don't. That's not the case. You have teams that are really good, and that's just that. They had, they put it all together for a couple of years, 1 year. It is what it is. But like I said, just to clarify, I think a super team, like I said, is two superstars and two high quality role players. I'm comfortable with that.
Do you put like a negative to it? Like, do you look at it as a negative to where you'll take away some point?
Oh, and just to clarify, I don't put like Hall of Famers. I don't put that on the table. Like, oh well, this team. I don't use the Hall of Famer argument. I don't use that because you got to look at. You have to put context behind players' careers as far as where they are when they join up. I don't just look because, for instance, right? People like to say, "Oh, well, in 2013." I'm just using a common example off the top of my head. But people like to say, "Oh, well, in 2013, you know, the Miami Heat, they beat the San Antonio Spurs, and they had five Hall of Famers." Well, I mean, when you look at that, right? Tim Duncan, Tim Duncan, Manu, and Parker, I'll give you that. But Kawhi Leonard and Tracy McGrady was in his last year, right? And he didn't even play. He was in his last year of the league. We're not talking about Orlando T Mac. We're not talking about Houston T Mac. Hell, we're not even talking about Toronto Raptors T Mac. So I don't use oh, well, this team got Hall of Famers. I don't use that because you got to apply context. When you look at Hall of Famer, that's for their career. You understand? That's a career achievement, not a 1 year achievement. Because if we had to base the Hall of Fame, if we had to base it off of 1 year, he's not getting in the Hall of Fame as San Antonio T Mac. So I don't use that argument, but I have to lay that out because some people say, "Oh, well, Hall of Fame." I know DFJ. Salute to him, DFJ Hoops. Go sub to his channel. But I know he kind of used that. I think I could be wrong, but from what I remember, he kind of used that argument, which is still kind of good. It leaves a frame of reference, but you still got to do the due diligence of doing research and applying context. You know what I'm saying? Even Kawhi Leonard didn't even reach his full potential yet. I'll give you Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili, even though they weren't in their prime, but for what they brought to the table, even in 2013, was still really good. But I don't use the Hall of Fame argument. Just wanted to clarify that.
From the players on the super team?
Well, it depends on how the team came together. So whether it's whether it's your GM or whether you as the players got together and decided y'all all just wanted to buddy up, I take like if y'all win the championship, that's like your championship ain't as great. You get what I'm saying? Because you basically consolidated top tier talent to win a chip. Now you get credit for winning, obviously, because you got to play the games. Who knows what might happen? An injury might take you out, or whatever, or people just play bad. The chemistry don't work. But if you do win, it's like, that's a lesser championship than say somebody like a Dirk Nowitzki, where he just stayed with his one team the whole time and didn't really team up with nobody that was in their prime and won it off his own muscle. You get what I'm saying?
So I'm saying, so I'm asking, just want to make sure I heard you right. So a super team will get a negative if they're a super team and win a championship, they lose some points.
Yeah, I mean, unless you just drafted all-star caliber players, you know, I mean, you have to be a damn good GM to keep hitting like that.
Okay,
But
so if they were drafted, then they won't lose points.
no, they wouldn't lose points because what could you had? I mean, you can't help where you get drafted, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this about that point right there. I kind of disagree. This is not the main point that of contention, but this is a side point. I do disagree with that because you can still look at a team and say that they're a super team, even if they're organic or inorganic. Okay. Two comparisons, right? Let's look at the Lakers from the '80s, and let's look at the um. Let's look at the Miami Heat, right? So they're both to me they're both super teams, right? But one is organic and the other one is inorganic. Now one team has, you know, three really good players, three great players in the Miami Heat, right? You got Bosh, who's a great. He's not a role player. You know what I'm saying? They got two role players and an all-star, borderline star level player. Okay, so that already right there is a super team. And then you have the Lakers from the '80s who had Magic and Kareem, right? And then they would eventually get Worthy, and they would have Michael Cooper. They also had like Jamal Wilkes. So they had really good quality role players, but they had a lot of them. You understand what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing, right? And I also want to say salute to Kobe Bryant Film Room because he did bring up a great point, and he had mentioned, well, see, and you do have to apply context. Whenever you're talking about a role player and how good they are, you do have to look at the fact that they're playing good with the superstar players that they're playing with. And that is a good point. I will agree to that. You do. Because we were talking about Steph Curry and we were talking about Draymond and Klay Thompson. I was trying to make the argument. I said, well, when you put those two together, you can make the argument that they probably can cancel out Chris Bosh. Right? Because we were talking about, well, they were saying that the super team logic that they classified as three franchise players on one team. Now, yeah, LeBron put the super team thing on steroids. We already know that. And this is why I specifically stated I don't rock with him. I don't root for him. So he don't even rank in this GOAT debate thing because of how cheap and he tried to do it the easy way, not to mention he's had postseason failures. Even with that Miami team, he had postseason failures. So, but I was trying to make the argument that you can kind of cancel out because they are two high quality role players. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are really good role players. Hell, BigDogg, even though I don't think so, but BigDogg at one point was trying to make the argument that Draymond Green should be a Hall of Famer, which I don't agree with because when Draymond was running his mouth to Charles Barkley, okay, talking about, oh, I could put 20 and 10 on a bad team, and salute the Two Raw for TV for that one. But when he was running his mouth, right, talking smack to Charles Barkley, talking about, oh, well, anybody could put numbers on a bad team. Okay, well, you did. First of all, you average around the same amount of points and rebounds you did, even with Clay and all those guys. So now that they're not in the lineup, you lose Durant, you lose Clay. Why you can't average 20 and 10? You the one that ran your mouth. The Warriors, for like 2 years before they won the championship, they were a bad team. You wasn't averaging 20 and 10. So for that, I don't have no respect for you for trying to disrespect a legend who put blood, sweat, and tears into the game and just came up short. No, I don't respect that. So no, to me, just for that, for you running your damn mouth and you talking that mess, no, you shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. No. Now, yeah, I understand that Draymond does have a good resume when you look at it on paper, but if I'm gonna hold LeBron to the disrespect narrative, I gotta hold you to that as well. And then you're talking about you the greatest defensive player ever. No, you're not. But that's another topic for another day. But like I said, I just think that those two. Now, I'm not gonna say that if you put them on that Raptors team, they're gonna emulate the same success as a Chris Bosh. I'm not saying that. But if you put them next to a good quality star, they're going to have good success because they're good complementary players. The point of a role player is to complement your star or your superstars. That's the point. So those two can benefit from playing next to a star. So I'm not going to say that those two on their own, because those two are not going to be groundbreaking players enough in the league. But if you put them with a star or a superstar, they're going to have a good chance of winning. Like, imagine this. Well, let me think. I'm trying to think of a good example, right? See, it depends. I would have to go back and look. But if you put them with a star, I think they're going to have good... Matter of fact, like, if you put them with, like, the Hawks, where they had Joe Johnson, like, really, it was kind of just Joe Johnson, really, on his own. I think they would have a good shot at being a really good team and possibly a contender. I'm not saying that they're going to win and it's like, oh my God, they're going to... No, I'm not saying it like that, but they would look good next to Joe Johnson. I believe so. But then again, they're playing in an era where it's kind of soft, easy to score. So you do have to apply the right context. And that's why I said I'm not just going to blindly say, oh man, you put them with anybody, they're going to do great. No, it depends on where they go and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, those two, they really have a good chance of putting it all together and helping a team win. Especially when you pair them with a superstar or a star level player, you know? But like I said, just to go back to that whole super team thing, I mean, yeah, the 80s Lakers, they had two superstars and throughout their history have really good role players. You understand what I'm saying? So you can kind of classify them as a super team. Now, yes, I do know it's organic, but that doesn't take away from the good talent that was there. You had guys like Michael Cooper, Jamal Wilkes, Norm Nixon, James Worthy. Like, when you put all those guys together, you know, that's going to be a super team. I mean, they ran through the 80s. When you look back, that's another thing. They really didn't have a lot of competition in their conference. There were times where they were playing team. Now, like I said, I get on LeBron and that whole super team era, but I got to be fair. I did the research. There were times where those 80s Lakers in the first round of the playoffs which was introduced, I want to say, in the 1983 season or the 82 season, one of those two. They introduced the first round, because I think before that it was the semis, the conference, and then the finals. So once they introduced the first round, there were a lot of teams that they played that had losing records. So they didn't have much, you got Kareem, who's arguably a top, first of all, he was a top 5 player in the league. And then you got Magic, who's a top 5 player in the league. Yes, it's organic, but that doesn't take away from the rest of the talent that they play with. And we give those guys, we give them a pass because it's organic. See, when you force it and do it inorganically, like the way LeBron did it, no. Now, if Mo Williams, right, develops into a great player, right, then we would give LeBron a pass. Like, if Mo Williams was averaging like 25, 26, like 5 rebounds, 7 assists, compared to what LeBron's production is, yeah, we would give LeBron a pass. Because, like, bro, you got him there. Or maybe not. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I don't think he was drafted there. But you get what I'm trying to say. If a player that got drafted, there develops, like a Carlos Boozer or somebody, or even a Luke Jackson. I don't know if y'all remember Luke Jackson. But what if Luke Jackson turns into like Chris Mullin, right? He's averaging like 23, 24. Cleveland is having all of this success in the East because you got 2 top 5 players. We would give LeBron a pass. That's not LeBron's fault that the Cavaliers drafted well. Now, we can still look back and say, okay, well, yeah, even though you did it like this, we can still look back and say, okay, well, compared to what Dirk's run was, you did have another superstar playing with you. We can say that ring is more impressive. But we can also say that we shouldn't really penalize him too much because it's not his fault that Luke Jackson developed into a top 5 player in the league. So I agree and kind of disagree with that notion. You can still be a super team. It's just about organic and inorganic. If you force it, it's not going to be that impressive. If it just naturally happens, it still might not be that impressive, but it's better because you didn't know what this player was going to turn into. Yeah, Magic Johnson probably was highly touted, highly looked after for, and highly scouted and all this stuff. But to say that he's going to go down as one of the greatest players of all time, that's hard to say. That's really hard to say. You understand what I'm saying? And plus, right, you gotta understand that a lot of people have respect for the current players in the league. Like, they're not gonna disrespect Moses Malone, Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. These were top players in the league. They're not gonna disrespect these guys and put a rookie on a pedestal and say, oh my God, he's gonna be the greatest ever. No, that's not how people thought back then. People might say, yeah, he might be, I think he has a good chance of being a Hall of Famer, but top anything? No. Just like this whole thing with Wemby. Yeah, from what we've seen from Wemby, he's going to have a great career. But even before his rookie season, people were saying, oh man, he's going to go down to being a top 5 center. Like, relax. Let him have respect for guys like Jokic, Embiid, Giannis. These are premier big men in the league. Don't overshadow them because you want to hype this guy up. Let his career play out. So that's what I think about that whole super team thing. If it's organic, you kind of get a pass. If it's inorganic, you don't get a pass.
I want to make sure. So another thing you said was that if a team gets to the finals and then they get a franchise player added to the team the next season,
yeah,
they're a super team.
Pretty much.
Now, I'm glad they mentioned that, right? Because that is a part of it. And it's not just automatically their super team. It depends on who's there. For instance, right? I'm trying to think of a team. For example, no. I'm trying to think of a team. I guess I could kind of go with the Pistons, right? See, it's tough. You got to go with a team who they have on the team. It's not just automatic. Oh man, that's a super team. Now I don't think it's not that easy. I think for the most part, really good teams that go to the finals, they're gonna have at least one player that's a superstar or a star level player. For the most part. For the most part. So it's tough to say. Um, and that's why I said, like, I don't want to just label any team super team. Like if with the '04 Pistons, I don't know. I think if you put another player on that team, if you put a superstar, because they didn't have any superstars, um, I don't think it's just a super. Now they did have some really high quality role players. I don't know that's tough to say. I don't think so though. Just going with what I said earlier, I don't think so. Because Rasheed Wallace, I wouldn't say he's a role player. He's like an all-star level player. So is Ben. I don't know. That's tough to say. I would really have to think of the team. But if they already have a superstar, and you add another superstar, and then they have good role players to boot, yeah, I think that can be qualified as a super team.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this then. So let's say after the 2007 finals,
Yeah.
the Cleveland Cavaliers said they add who was top notch. Say Carmelo Anthony to that Cavaliers team with LeBron. Are they a super team?
Now, no, they're not a super team. Because I don't think Carmelo Anthony was a superstar. And hell, LeBron wasn't even a superstar yet. And even with that run, you gotta understand they maximized what they were supposed to do because the conference was not that good. Um, besides the Pistons, the first two rounds were really easy, especially the semis. Getting past um, the Wizards without Gilbert Arenas, come on now. Come on now. That team didn't have their other franchise player, star player. So, well, I wouldn't say he's a franchise player, but you know they didn't have their other star player, all star caliber player, whatever. But no. So, but if you add Melo on that '07 team, then no. I don't think that they're a super team because Melo and LeBron are not superstars in that time period. And then you know, Big Z, I'll never disrespect Big Z. I wouldn't, he would be classified as a good quality role player. I wouldn't say high, but he was a good quality role player. Maybe some would say high, but he was good quality role player. As well as they had guys like Larry Hughes, another good quality role player. Um, you know what I'm saying? They had Boobie Gibson. He might be on the lower tier, but he's still, you know, he came up big in that game 6, so, but no, just I don't think that would be a super team. I don't think so. So it's not just about if you make a run to the finals. It's about the talent level on the team.
That's an interesting one right there.
I mean, you said if you go to the finals.
I know, you're right.
Yeah, he said that, but Carmelo Anthony was not a superstar. You know, or even you might can make the case he was a star, maybe. And I do know that he was playing in a very tough conference. But even him, he wasn't even a two-way player. So I would give him probably all-star, borderline star, if that. But no. I understand what BigDogg is saying, but that's a little bit more of an extreme example, in my opinion.
Uh
I mean, we see how you feel about Drew Gooden. So
oh yeah, well not Drew Gooden's
Carmelo
trash.
Anthony, LeBron
But
James.
but you gotta also think they had that's got potential right there. That could have been a super team. Because we talking about both Melo and LeBron at they at their peaks. You know, that's the beginning of both they
No. Melo and LeBron were not at their peak. peak and prime are two totally different things. Your absolute peak is the very best that you've performed on all-time levels. I'll give you an example. Kobe from '06 to about you can make it throw 2011 in there, but Kobe from '06 to 2011, that is his absolute peak. Now Kobe's prime is from 2000 to about 2013. That's his prime. But his absolute peak where he was playing on historically high levels, '06 to 2011. You understand what I'm saying? But they weren't even entering their peak. They were entering their prime, and in that season, they might have been either their first or second year in their prime, depending on how you want to look at it. Because you might can make the argument that '06 was them entering their prime, but their absolute peak where they were playing their best quality basketball, I don't think so. Hell, even Melo, even in '09, I would say you could probably make the argument that's the start of his peak. The 2009 season. Maybe '08. Maybe. That's the start of his peak performance. Maybe from like '08 to about 2013, 2014-ish. You know what I'm saying? Even when LeBron from about 2009 to about 2014, that's probably LeBron's peak, where he was playing high quality basketball. You know, he's still not in the GOAT debate, but he was playing very well, even though he was on a super team. But he still was playing good. But I wouldn't say that they were both in their peak, and they might have just have been entering their prime. So no.
They peaks, you know what I mean?
So
And you mean they still got Larry Hughes and Ilgauskas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said they still have Larry Hughes and Ilgauskas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that team would be too tough.
So how many
Because think about it, you ain't even give nothing up. Now, if they had to give up, let's say they had to trade Larry Hughes and Ilgauskas to get Carmelo, then that wouldn't make sense, right? It wouldn't make sense to call a team like that a super team because now you just got two players. But when you got two guys that was already, nice players like that, and a star already on their team, and then you add another superstar, that had potential. That's a good question. I like that one. I'm kind of on the fence with it because I don't like the rest of their roster, but the top part of that talent.
So it takes two franchise players to make a super team, in your opinion?
At least in their prime, both in their prime, and both and the team has to already be kind of built up. You know what I'm saying? It can't be two superstars and the rest of the players are scrubs. That wouldn't count.
So, how much points do you take away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson from their championships?
Now I'm gonna say this. I do think that they should have some type of points taken off, but I don't think it's enough to be like, oh man, I still think that those are two legendary players. You could easily make a top 5 case for both of them. So, to me, it's not enough to just say, oh man, Magic and Kareem, man, they play with each other. That's taking them out of the top 5. I don't think so. And you already know what I think. I think that you got to look at skill, because winning a championship is a team accomplishment, and I don't take that into account for the most part. You do have to have rings, but that's not the first thing that I look at. I used to look at it that way, saying, okay, well, how many rings you got? Were you the best player? Et cetera, et cetera. But you got to look at skill. Kareem without the rings is still one of the most skilled players of all time. So if you put the right team around him, they're going to win the championship. That's not even a question. It just depends on the fit personality, the coaching. You know what I'm saying? But skill for skill, pound for pound, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is he's up there. But like I said, if we're just talking about rings, you can knock them because they were two superstars that didn't really play in a overall good conference. But I don't think them playing together is enough to just take them out of these all time discussions. I don't think so. Because they both got, well, besides Kareem, Magic was drafted there, but Kareem arrived there way before Magic Johnson was even probably in college. So you can't you can count it against him, but not by that much. Not by that much. You know what I'm saying? Unlike what some other players did to get their rings.
Well, I don't take any because Kareem was there when the team was sorry. He was already there. And then Magic got drafted there.
Okay, so you don't say no points.
Nah.
Okay.
I still kind of take points, but it's not enough to be like, oh man, yeah, they played together. No, you can take away points because there are other championship accomplishments that look better. Like when you look at Hakeem, now Hakeem's championships are way more impressive than Kareem's, but I think player for player, I give the edge to Kareem as far as being more skilled. It's a slight edge, but that's the debate, not the championship thing, because if that's the case, then Hakeem should be ranked over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm just saying, but that's not how it should be viewed, because Hakeem had a lot of first round failures as well. So it's a lot that goes into that. You understand what I'm saying? It's a lot, but I think you can kind of count it against them, but just not by that much.
Okay, so you said you're on the fence about the '07 Cavaliers going into
If they
08.
added Carmelo.
So LeBron James, Carmelo, Zydrunas Ilgauskas is a super team.
And Larry Hughes? Yeah.
Hell no. Hell no. No, no, no. That now you're listen, I don't mess with LeBron. I don't. I said that before the show started. Or before the before I started this whole thing. I don't like him, I don't root for him, I don't mess with him. But I gotta be fair, be real, okay? I got to. I still don't think that's not a super team because they're both not superstars. And I specifically stated it's got to be two superstars and two high quality role players. So no, I don't think that that's a super team. Not even close. And another thing, real quick, right? Just to mention, I do think that Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Larry Hughes are good quality role players. So even if they were superstars, I wouldn't say that that's a super team. But they were really good. You might consider them high quality, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. I just don't think so, but they're really, really good. So.
Now you just said it was LeBron James and a bunch of bums. So I'm
but
trying to
when we
figure
had
out
that
how
discussion,
Carmelo.
man, more context was given when we had that discussion before.
I think we trying to make. I think we throwing the word super team around too much. Me personally, and I think the definition is starting to change. I mean, I know you're not a big LeBron fan, but I think people overall is trying to make it where now everybody has had a super team because of, it was a good team. Like before, it was three franchise players. Now it's two franchise players and good role players. Now,
It
I
depends on
I
it
don't
depends
agree
on
with
how
that.
good your role players are to me.
Yeah, but they role
But
players.
I mean, some role players. Think about let's say Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they not superstars, but they kind of like star level role players, right?
Okay.
So let's say the Spurs, when they was in their prime, the earlier years, the early mid 2000 years, right? And you know they had
Whew, okay, I had to use the bathroom, but let me just talk about that real quick. So I I kind of agree with what Big Dog is talking about. I think, and it's not people. That's why I kind of think he's wrong at. It's not people that are trying to change the definition. It's more than likely LeBron fans that are trying to change the definition. You know, because people will say, excuse me, LeBron fans will say, "Oh well, the Lakers had a super team. You don't count that against them." Or people say, "Well, in history there were super teams." But yeah, a lot of stock. Look, right? I'll give you this. To me, uh, the if we're just comparing championships, just hear me out. The 1983 Sixers is not that impressive. I'm just saying it's not. Now I think Moses Malone definitely is one of the most underrated players in NBA history. To me, in my opinion, I think the most underrated player in NBA history is Sidney Moncrief. No doubt about it. Sidney Moncrief is one of the most underrated players in NBA history. Well, the most underrated player. Sidney Moncrief, for a brief period of about 4 to 5 years, was an absolute beast. He just had injuries, but what he was able to do in 5 years of being mostly healthy, even in one of those years, he missed a significant amount of playoff time. I want to say in 86. Could be 83 as well. But what he was able to do, putting it all together on offensive, defense, being a 2-time defensive player of the year, bro, Sidney Moncrief is the most underrated player of all time. No doubt about it. He was really, really good. Much respect to Sidney Moncrief. But what I will say is this, right? The 83 Sixers, yes, that was a legendary team and a legendary run. But if we're just saying how hard it was for them to win, it really wasn't that difficult. Now, yes, the East was tough, and a part of that, the Sixers was a part of that tough East that made that division, that made that conference really, really tough. Yes, because when they added Moses, that really took them over the hump. But the Sixers were already a good team without Moses Malone. Now, when you look at Maurice Cheeks, Bobby Jones, who's a high quality role player, I would say Maurice Cheeks is good, and then Andrew Toney was a good quality role player. And then you add Moses Malone, who's a superstar, top 5 player in the league. It was guys like him, Dr. J, Kareem, Magic, and Bird. Those were like the top 5 players in the early part of the 80s, early to mid 80s. Those were the top 5 players. Moses, Kareem, Bird, Magic, Dr. J. Okay? Adding Dr. J. Now listen, Boston and LA had super teams of their own. But like I said, we're talking about organic versus inorganic. Boston and LA both drafted and made good trades. And for the most part, their core was for the most part was drafted there. Besides Kareem, but their core was mostly drafted there. All right? When you look at McHale and when you look at Bird, and then Parrish, who was not good up until he went to Boston, he was not viewed as even a good quality role player. Parrish made his name going to the Celtics. He fit like a glove, but he just wasn't a good quality role player. But he developed into that because he's playing with Bird and McHale. And he also had Nate Archibald as well. So, what I'm saying is, that championship, because Moses listen, whether he went there, traded there, whatever, he was not a part of the team. So him getting to Philly, however he got to Philly, what I'm saying is that that championship run is not that impressive. I still think it's an underrated championship run because Moses was able to, the 76ers were able to beat the Lakers. And Moses got the best of Kareem twice. One being that series and another one being, I want to say in 1981, where the Rockets, I think they beat the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. So Moses got the best of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar twice. You understand what I'm saying? But that championship run just wasn't that impressive because Dr. J was a superstar in the league. And then you add Moses Malone. So, yeah, and then you already had some really good quality role players. Yeah, that of course. Absolutely that's going to be a super team. Come on now. But that's what I think about that. And I do think it's starting to get watered down. But us being, us having some type of knowledge of the game, we can be honest and say, okay, well, this wasn't a super team, it was. And like I said, I think having two superstars and at least two high-quality role players, we can give that team the super team acknowledgement.
Tim Duncan as their superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say they added another dude to their team. Like, let's say they added, I don't know, Rashid to that team. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, would that be considered a super team, you think?
No, I don't think Rasheed was like great enough to push somebody to be a super team.
Him and Tim Duncan together?
No.
Oh man. So what if it was him and what if KG was on that team then?
I still want to call it a super team.
All right, BigDogg, you my boy. You my boy. You did listen on behind the bench. You Dennis Rodman of behind the bench. All right, you my boy. But this is why I was like, no. This is where I said I gotta make a video on this. I just heard the video today. I said I gotta talk about this, bro. If you add Kevin Garnett, now, hear me out. If you put Kevin Garnett on that 2003 team, let's go with 2003 to 2007. Matter of fact, before we even get into that, see, this is why context matters, and this is why you kind of have to grade it as far as who is in their peak. Kevin Garnett was in his peak in 2003. His peak, you can make the argument it was from about 2000. Well, I would probably go with, no, I might say 2003 to maybe about 2008. Maybe. That, him being at his absolute peak. Maybe. Did he make All NBA in 2008? I could be mistaken on that. I don't know if he made. Wait, let me look that up. I want to see if he made All NBA first team in 2008. Hold on. Kevin Garnett. Okay, he did. Now you know what? I'll give Garnett this. I'll say from about 2000 to 2005, you could probably make the argument that that is his peak, because 2006 to 2007, those were kind of down years for KG. So I wouldn't say he was at his peak. He was in his prime, but not his peak. But his peak is from about 2000 to about 2005. I'll give him that. But if you add Kevin Garnett to that Spurs team, And listen, they had David Robinson. Now, see, it depends when you add him. Now, if you add him, let's say, right, they added him in 2000. Well, no. I'll go with '03. Let's say they added him in 2003. I'll just to be safe. Let's say the Lakers do their thing. They got a three-peat. You add him in '03, they have a good chance of beating that Lakers team. You know why? Because that Lakers team wasn't a super team. It wasn't a super team. Yes, I know that they had Kobe and Shaq, but their role players was not. They weren't high quality role players. You might can make the argument for Horry. You might, but even I wouldn't. I would say he was a good quality role player. I wouldn't say high quality. He was good, and he excelled in his role, but not high quality. Hell, you might can make the argument that Glenn Rice might have been a high quality role player. You can make that argument. But even then, they still didn't have anybody that were high quality role players. So, that's not a super team from the definition that I laid out earlier. And I don't think so. Those were just two, it was two superstars and some, good to low quality role players. But those two superstars carried the way. All right? Now, let's not get it twisted. Shaq and Kobe carried the way. Both of them. Not just one. It was both of them. But, yeah, like I said, if you add KG, and then they had Bruce Bowen, who was a good quality role player, and then they would eventually acquire Ginobili and Parker, who would later on develop into high quality role players. If you add them from '03 to '07, bro, that's a super team. Now, yes, I'll give you maybe '03 and '04, maybe they weren't high quality role players. But from '05 to '07, if you add Duncan on that team, Kevin Garnett, who was a superstar, bro, that's a super team, bro. Not to mention you still got David Robinson, even though he was in his last year. All right, then you got, like I said, Bruce Bowen. You had Malik Rose, who was decent. You even had Steve Smith at one point. Come on now. To me, that is a damn super team. That is a super team, no doubt about it. And it's inorganic. And Sid is gonna mention a great point, which I agree with. They were good. They had championship aspirations and were good without Kevin Garnett. And this is the argument that I was trying to make with Golden State. Now, yes, Kobe Bryant, film room, KB, that's my dude. Salute to him. He made a great point. The players are going to look good next to the star. I 1,000% agree with that. But that's not to take away from the role player's game. And I'm not saying that if they're on their own or if they're together, they're just going to have this tremendous amount of success. No, you got to put a star next to those guys. That's going to be complementary. That's going to fit well. You have to. So, what I'm saying is, right, is that adding KG to those teams, that's going to be a super team. And with the whole Kevin Durant thing, when he went to Golden State, they already had Steph Curry, who's a superstar, and they had Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, who are high-quality role players. And they were coming off a finals appearance and a finals win just 2 years ago. They were in the finals for the last 2 years. Yes, that is a super team. No, nobody looked at that team and said, "Oh man, they looking like they're gonna go to the conference finals and they're gonna lose." Nobody was saying, "Hey, Golden State, I don't know if they're gonna make it out the semis." They were saying Golden State is gonna win. And I'm not saying that that's the end all be all because you had championship aspirations or you were, you were the favorite to win the title. I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but that does say a lot about your team. That really does. So, this is where I was like, man, I disagree. I gotta make a video on this, bro. KG was a top 5 player in the NBA at that time. You want to know who the top 5 was in the early to mid 2000s? It was Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant. I'm not saying this is the order, but it was Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, KG, and Jason Kidd. Those to me were the top 5 in the early to mid 2000s. Those are the top 5. You're talking about players that play on both ends of the court. Now, I know Shaq is on the lower end, but he still played both sides of the ball at a good level. At a good level. Even though I am starting to think that Shaq is overrated and he's not my top 5 centers. I moved him off of Moses Malone. But in his playing days, in his prime, in his peak, he was still a good two-way player. I'll give Shaq that. But that was the top 5 in any order you want. Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Jason Kidd. Go look at the All-NBA teams. And they're all defensive. You'll see those guys come up. And for the most part, they were going high into the playoffs. Besides Kevin Garnett, who didn't really have a lot of playoff success. But, to be fair, Minnesota kind of screwed him over because they made that underhanded deal with Joe Smith. And that was a big controversy. And that ended up taking away their draft picks. Now, when you look back at those draft picks, go look and see the draft picks that Minnesota was supposed to get and go look at the talent. They were going to get some really good players. I'm not saying they were going to go to the finals and make a difference, but it was supposed to be the Lakers, the Spurs, and the Timberwolves all battling it out for the conference. And of course you got to throw in the Kings, but those 4 teams were supposed to be the conference semis every year. From 2000 to 2004. Now, eventually he would get 2 high-quality role players. And you see what he did with that. Look, think about it like this, right? He got Sprewell and Sam Cassell, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals. In the tough Western Conference. Imagine if he had good role players coming out of the draft. Kevin Garnett was... Listen, now, I know I wasn't really sold on Kevin Garnett. And I think that Kelvin's video from behind the bench, he did make a really, really good point that in a lot of those games, Kevin Garnett was not the closer. Now, he was great, but he wasn't the closer. All right? Even when he went to Boston, you had Paul Pierce, who was closing out a lot of those games, averaging 40 and stuff like that. That was Paul Pierce, who had more of the clutch gene in him than Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett was not the final option. So I agree with Kelvin. But all that's going to do is keep him out of the discussion of being one of the truly great all-time players. For the most part. But he still gave you good production on offense and defense. You understand what I'm saying? So I just think that, yeah, people can kind of call Kevin Garnett a little bit overrated from a clutch standpoint, and I would agree with that. But he was still a great two-way player. And like I said, had the Timberwolves not did that deal with Joe Smith, go look it up, in 2000, 99, it was either 99 or 2000, the draft picks that they were going to get, I think would have helped them a lot in being one of the better teams in the conference. I'm not saying they would have been champions and all the rest of that stuff, but looking back on Kevin Garnett's career, he would have had a little bit more help. Just a little bit more help. But if you throw that KG on the... Come on, man. Imagine having KG and Duncan, like Duncan playing the 5, KG at the 4. Who's stopping that duo? What? Kevin Garnett was a stat stuffer. And one of the most skilled players in that era, bro. Adding those two would be crazy. But then again, it would be inorganic. It would be inorganic. So that would go against them. But that's not to say that that wasn't a super team. So I disagree with BigDogg right there. You throw KG on that team with another top 5 player, bro, that's a super team. With good quality role players like Ginobili, Parker, Bruce Bowen. All right, people forget about Bruce Bowen. Good quality role player. Was making all first defensive teams with Duncan. So yeah, come on now. Yes, that's a super team. Look at the Bulls. The Bulls had in 90. Now, I'm not saying the Bulls are a super team, so relax. But in 96, Rodman, Pippen, and Jordan made all first defense. All first defense. You throw, bro, that means you got Duncan, Garnett, and Bruce Bowen making all first defense. Are you kidding me? Bro, that's a super team. Now, no, Pippen and Rodman and Jordan, no, those are not super teams. Rodman was not a franchise player, and Rodman was a high-quality role player. He was not a superstar or a star. Pippen, the same thing. High-quality role player, not a star or a superstar. Borderline star, if that. So I'm not even making that argument. But yeah, man, like, come on now. Throwing KG on that team, bro, that's overkill.
Nah, that's
Because there's only 2 franchise players on there.
And see, that's the thing. I think BigDogg, I disagree with you there. I don't agree with, oh, well, like, it can't be dead set. Oh, it's 3 franchise players. It can't, like, I get it. And I'm not trying to minimize, and I'm not trying to overvalue and undervalue certain teams, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to overvalue the Pistons and say that they were a super team in 2004 and 2005. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say the Spurs were a super team because they had 3 Hall of Famers, Duncan, Ginobili, and no. I'm not saying that at all. I have no agenda when I say this. Only thing that I'm saying is that a super team can still be super when you have... Look, think about it like this, right? The Miami Heat, to be fair, right? Chris Bosh was a borderline star. He was an all-star level player. And yes, he was a franchise player, really good player. He was a borderline star because you still had other great power forwards that were still better than him at the time. But that's still a super team because then you added, look, they already had him, and then you add like Shane Battier and Ray Allen. Yeah, that's a super team. Even without those guys, it's still a super team because Bosh can carry his own. But what I am saying is it can't be just dead set. Oh, it's got to be 3 franchise players. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. That doesn't mean that that's not a super team. I don't agree with that because you're shortchanging. Listen, a lot of teams that have had good success, they've had 2 or more superstars. I mean, excuse me, 2 superstars. It's hard to win with 1 superstar. But when it happens, it's like, hey, that's a job well done. Look at Jordan. Look at Olajuwon. Look at Dirk. Like, when we look at those guys and we look at their championship runs and them being the only superstar, we hold that as far as championship accomplishments in high esteem. And that could close the gap in some people's eyes. Look, Garnett and Dirk, besides the defense, they have similar resumes. But like Kelvin said, one player won a championship with good role players and that's it, and them being the only superstar compared to Garnett. Now, I wouldn't say that Ray Allen and Paul Pierce are superstars, but they can contribute and they can impact the game like superstars, both of them. They were borderline star level players. So yeah, that can kind of bridge the gap a little bit. So, but that's my whole point. It can't just be dead set. Oh, it's got to be three. Listen, I don't rock with LeBron, and what he did was garbage. But like I said, just to be fair, if I'm going with what I was saying, we got to kind of look at it like that. That it can also be two superstars and good role players, or at least an all-star level player. It's got to be.
Nah, that's definitely got to be a super team.
All right.
Look at how good the team is already without him. That's already a championship level team, and then you throw KG in the mix. It's just unfair.
Exactly. Three's on fire. Sid, I appreciate you saying that, bro. Because that was the same point of view that I had. You got two. You already got a top 5 player in the team. Top 3. Shaq, Kobe, Duncan. Top 3. Then you add in Garnett, who's up there with Kidd. What are we talking about? Come on now. That is a super team. Then you have good role players such as Bruce Bowen, Ginobili Parker. Come on. Malik Rose. They were already a good team without him. And this was the same thing that I was saying with what's his name? With Kevin Durant. They were a good team without Kevin Durant. They already won a title without Kevin Durant. And then you add Durant. Now, granted, yes, I know, and this was the point that BigDogg was making. Well, LeBron was doing the super team thing, so you shouldn't, and I understand that, and I agree with that. And that's, but yet and all, we're talking about superstars that have impact in the game. I'm not saying that LeBron should stack the conference and nobody else should do the same thing. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that to me, the smoking gun is that Steph Curry won before and after Kevin Durant. So run it back. Run it back. Run it back. And if I'm being fair, right? You can, look, hear me out. Y'all might disagree, and that's fine. But you can kind of make the argument, if I was going with my logic from earlier, that the second Cleveland Cavaliers team, you can kind of make the argument they probably weren't a super team. Just being fair, if I'm going with my logic. Because Kyrie Irving wasn't a superstar. He wasn't like Dwayne Wade. And Kevin Love was not a superstar. Yes, Kevin Love was a great star level player, but I wouldn't say he's a superstar. But even then, what LeBron did before that, I still, bro, you already learned you learn how to win from D Wade and Pat Riley. So what you did with the Cavaliers the second time, and then you had good quality role players and with Shumpert and J.R. Smith and no, I don't count what he did the second time. But to be fair, you could kind of make the argument that wasn't a super team. And like I said, y'all already know I don't mess with dude. He's unrankable. But I'm just trying to be a little bit fair here and say that you can probably make the argument that wasn't a super team. Even though I still think it was, because Kyrie is a great player and Kevin Love is a great player. But they weren't superstars. Neither one of them. Now, they could make up for a superstar not being there, and then you added some good quality role players so you can... But all I'm saying is you could kind of make the argument. Kind of. I wouldn't be mad at that. But like I said, LeBron Ben did stuff that disqualifies him. So I don't rock with dude. And I'm not going to say... And listen, he got what he deserved. You think I'm going to sit back and feel sorry for a dude that did all that nonsense in Miami? Hell no. He don't deserve to be in no GOAT debate, top 10, nothing. Y'all already know I don't have him ranked nowhere. That GOAT debate stuff is dead. Like I said, in order for me to rank him, he got to apologize. Apologize for calling himself the GOAT and a lot more other stuff. Apologize for disrespecting past players, and you got to apologize to Kobe. for missing his memorial. So until all that stuff happens, he's unrankable. And I don't care if it's off the court. Even when you want to talk about on the court, you still underachieved in Miami, and you underachieved in Cleveland the second time. So this is not me trying to promote LeBron James because I'm saying that. No, I don't rock with dude. But I'm just being fair going by the criteria. But even so, you know, it could go either way. Depends how you look at it. I still look at it as a super team, but I can understand why people wouldn't consider it a super team. I can understand. I don't agree, but I can understand. But yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna feel sorry for LeBron because he stabbed the league and the Warriors shot him. That's all that happened. He stabbed the league by doing that nonsense in Miami, and the Warriors shot him. Shot him right in the face. So no, I don't feel sorry for him. Get out of here with that. He's still unrankable. Mr. 5,000. All of that. But like I said, I'm just going by the criteria.
But that's not the Spurs' fault. They know how to draft.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but I'm talking about adding the outside player to that team, though. And that outside player is an MVP caliber player himself.
Yeah, but you're penalizing the team who did a great job drafting players and the coaching staff and whoever putting them together to become that great. So now you say now you can't get a star free agent because y'all did a good job drafting.
No, you could do whatever you want. The way.
And that's the thing. I agree with Sid, and this is my problem with LeBron James fans trying to tell us that, oh, well, there's been other super teams. No. When we're talking about being organic, this is what we're talking about. And I agree with Sid. You can do whatever you want, but we don't have to hold that in high esteem as far as regarding your legacy compared to some of the all-time greats. There have been a lot of players who, yeah, they might have played with a lot of good talent, but at least the core team was there for a while, and then they ascended to win championships, at the very least. So you can say Boston Hall of Famers in the 80s and all of that, but they all grew up playing with each other, at the very least. You know, Bird was drafted, McHale was drafted, Parrish wasn't a good player when he went there. Come on now. So, you got to apply the right context to the situation. And it all depends on what time you go there. And this was another argument I was trying to make. If you put Kevin Durant from, let's just go with 2011. 2011 Kevin Durant, who from 2009, heading into 2012, right? Because this is when the Warriors started making moves as far as developing their team, right? It started from 2012. You put Kevin Durant on that team, that's not a super team at the time, and it would still be excusable if Steph Curry developed into the player that he developed into. You want to know why? Because when Kevin Durant went there, Steph Curry was not a superstar. So if he goes there, if he's like, listen, I'm going to make my mark in Golden State, I don't want to play for Oklahoma City, then we can look at that and say, okay, you know what? Even though Steph Curry developed into a superstar, we can excuse Kevin Durant because nobody knew what that team was going to be. That's different. If we're talking about adding a player, and this is the argument I was trying to make, we're not talking about Kevin Garnett from 96 going to the Spurs. No, we're talking about Kevin Garnett, who from 2000 to 2003 was All-NBA and All-NBA first defense 4 years in a row. We're talking about that Kevin Garnett. He goes to the Spurs. We're not talking about a rookie who hasn't made his name yet, joining up with Duncan, who hasn't made his name yet. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Garnett in his peak, joining Duncan in his peak. And then you have Ginobili and Parker, who are still developing, and then you have a Bruce Bowen, all-defensive first-team caliber player. No, that's not the same. That's not the same time frame. We can excuse when players aren't fully, but when they're fully developed, Yes, that has to go against your legacy. And we can look at that and say, well, that's not impressive. Oh, well, you're throwing this guy in the GOAT debate because he did that? You're supposed to do that. Like the Warriors, their championship. Look, it's an indictment against KD because he didn't win when he was with the Thunder. Now, yes, the Western Conference was tougher, but if you're a superstar, you got to get it done, bro. And you had your chance in 2011. You lost to the Mavericks. That was a little bit more of an even matchup. You're a superstar. Dirk Nowitzki's a superstar. Get it done. No, you guys lost. You know why? Because Kevin Durant has shown throughout the years that he is not a good leader. That's the difference. And this is what I would say. Look, and I hold Kevin Durant to the same standard that I hold Steph Curry. You want to know why I'm not going to put Steph Curry over Magic Johnson? Because to me, Magic Johnson was more of a vocal leader than Steph Curry. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. After a while, Magic Johnson became the best player on the team, and he was the vocal leader. I remember talks about Draymond Green being a Hall of Famer on Ticket's channel, Salute the Ticket, and they're talking about, oh, Draymond Green is the vocal and emotional leader. The emotional leader don't get you into the Hall of Fame. But Steph Curry is not the alpha on the team as far as being vocal. Yes, he's the best player, but you got to be the best player and the leader. And that's why I think it's close because Steph Curry is a great player. Don't get me wrong. I have him number 8, I want to say, all time. I have him number 8. Right ahead of, damn, who I got under him? I'm forgetting my list. Oh man, who I have at number 9? Damn, I forgot who I had number 9. But what I'm saying is that you got to be the best player and the vocal leader. You have to. You just have to, man. Look at Olajuwon. Best player, vocal leader, a true leader in the ball club. Michael Jordan, best player and vocal leader. Will Chamberlain, best player, vocal leader. Kobe Bryant, best player, vocal leader. Tim Duncan, best player. You see the theme that I'm trying to present here? That is going to count. And that's the reason why I can't really, along with other stuff, but I can't really put him on Magic's. He is on Magic's level, but I don't think he's surpassed Magic just yet. But you can't, to me, that is a part of it. And just to bring it back around to Durant, bro, Westbrook was the alpha. He was the vocal leader. Yeah, you were the best player, but you weren't the alpha on the team. That was Westbrook. So no, your leadership, your lack of leadership is the reason why you weren't able to get over the hump without Steph Curry. So we can still look at championships and grade them differently. But that's just, yeah, I mean, depending on when you join, that matters a lot. And we can excuse when you join. Like I said, if Kevin Durant joins Golden State in 2012, he's a superstar joining a team with unknown players who are still developing. They are. They might have been good quality players. Well, no, I would say Steph was he was like a starter, kind of all-star caliber player. But Green and Clay, they were still trying to figure it out. They weren't even close to what they were even 2 years later, in 2014. So it does depend on when you join up. If you join up, like look at the same thing with Carmelo Anthony, right? If Carmelo Anthony would have joined up in 2010 with LeBron in Cleveland, then you can make the argument that that's a super team. Because in 2009, him and LeBron, they both have really good seasons, and they both led their team to the conference finals. Both of them. LeBron being in the Eastern Conference Finals, Carmelo Anthony being in the Western Conference Finals. So if they would have joined up then, yeah, they're both in their peak. You can make the argument that probably would have been a super team. So it does depend on when you join up.
I'm gonna look the way I'm gonna look at your success is you supposed to win. If you don't win, now you're just a failure. Now I really gotta take points away.
Okay, but people thought they were supposed to win anyway.
Like no, not necessarily. When the Spurs was winning.
No, that's a lie. See, no, Big Dog. No. You can't say that they thought the Spurs were supposed to win, especially in 03. Because the Lakers were coming off a three-peat. They were the heavy favorite. They just ran up against Tim Duncan, who he was just having a monster year from start to finish. But I wouldn't say that. The Spurs, yeah, they were really good. They were championship contenders. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking that away from them. But I'm not going to say they were looked at, oh, they're going to win. No. Because you still had the Lakers. And on a lower tier level, you still had the Sacramento Kings. So them two, the Lakers, they were battling it out. But for the most part, I think everybody looked, especially after 2000 and 2001, they were looking at the Lakers because they destroyed the Spurs. So they were looking at the Lakers to really be the favorites to win because they were killing the Spurs. They were dogging them. Come on now. What Kobe Bryant was doing to the Spurs, oh my God, man. What? If we could pull up tape. But, yeah, they were championship contenders, but not for every single year. Because you still had the Lakers. And like I said, on the lower level, you still had the Kings. If you remove the Lakers and the Spurs, I think the Kings are going to win the championship. If you take those two teams out. Who's beating them in the East? Who? Who, the Nets? Hell no. The Pacers? Nope. Try again. Not even the Sixers. So that's how I look at it.
They never won back-to-back, right? So they couldn't just have automatically thought they would win every year. They thought they had some kind of...
Oh, got him. That's right. That's right. Y'all, listen. You and KB, shout out to KB, but y'all do say that Duncan never won back-to-back. Which is a fair point that Sid is bringing that up. Because, no, they were not penned to win it every year. Yeah, they were contenders, but it's not like they just were the favorites every single year. That's not true.
A competition.
That's true, but they was contenders every year. You know, they didn't win back-to-back, but they was legit contenders every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, contenders, but not winning, not favored to win it all. Really, that 03 team, you could kind of make the argument that they overachieved. Really because of Duncan. And I'm not taking anything away from the other players. Because you still had Ginobili and Parker, but I think they were coming off the bench if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Parker was starting. I'll have to look at the games played and all that. But I know for sure Ginobili was coming off the bench. But yeah, they had Steven Jackson, Bruce Bowen, Malik Rose. They had a good team, but Duncan really pushed them over the hump. For him to lead the Spurs past the Lakers, that was a big deal. That was a really, really big deal. Not only did they stop the four-peat, but they lost to them twice in a row. In 01 and in 02. That was huge. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, they had a lot of, remember, Shaq and Kobe was around at that time. So they had another team to battle them for that. So let's say, like, Shaq and Kobe and them three-peated, right? Let's say we go to an earlier year, and like, let's say it was 2000, 2001, and the Lakers had just won. Let's say 2001. That'd be their second one. And to try to stop them from three-peating, the Spurs said, you know what, man, we need a whole nother superstar to add to our team to put us over the top of them because we scared of going just head to head with what we got.
Okay.
Or I got a better one for you. Not even that we're scared. And you got to remember this, right? A lot of the reason for the Lakers' success is because they had Shaq and Kobe. To be fair, no other team in the league from 2000 to 2004, no other team in the league had 2 top 5 players on their team. No other team. To be fair. Now, yes, that was a miracle year for the 03 Spurs, but that was a lot because of Duncan and his main contribution. But no other team had 2 superstars on their team. It was either they had 1 superstar or 1 star. Now, yes, it was organic. So you can kind of count it against them, but not by much. It was organic. Nobody knew what Kobe was going to develop into, except for one man, Jerry West, rest in peace. The only person that really saw Kobe Bryant's true talent was Jerry West. he, I don't know what it was, probably his mentality and the fact that, because Jerry West was a true competitor. And he knew Kobe had that fire, that dog in him from day one. Kobe just wasn't able to show it, but Jerry West knew. When he looked at Kobe and he spoke to him, he knew. Even Shaq knew. Shaq said, okay, this guy, he wants to be great. Both of those guys knew. More importantly, Jerry West. He knew the fire that Kobe had burning, that burning desire to be a great player, be an all-time great. Jerry West knew that. Nobody else knew that but Jerry West. So I understand Kobe had to develop. But still in all, they had 2 of the top 5 players in the league. Even if you want to add a superstar that cancels out Kobe or cancels out Shaq, you still got to deal with either one of them, right? Let's look at it like this, right? AI. Let's just say he cancels out Shaq. Who the hell is canceling out Kobe Bryant? Mutombo? Hell no. Hell no. So like I said, I'm not trying to sit up here and say, oh my God, that was a super team. No, I'm not saying that. I already clarified that earlier. But what I am saying is a lot of their success was because they had 2 top 5 players in the league. They did. So if the Spurs add Kevin Garnett, that's going to be interesting. If after 01, 2001, 2002, if they say, yo, now listen, you know why this is important? Because in 99, I want to say the Spurs beat the Lakers in 99. I could be wrong. But the Spurs swept the Lakers in 99. So they were kind of feeling themselves. Even though Kobe wasn't fully developed yet. He was getting there, but in 99, he wasn't fully developed. It would take the next year for Kobe Bryant to really develop his game. And really showcase it. But in 99, the lockout year, they swept the Lakers. 2000, Tim Duncan gets hurt right before the playoffs. They were talking mess. Oh, well, you didn't have to go through us. And we were missing Tim Duncan. 2001, that was the most important series for the Lakers. Western Conference Finals, they destroyed the Spurs. So this is what makes this moment of what Sid is talking about so important. Because they swept the Spurs and dogged them. Kobe Bryant was Kobe Bryant was dunking all over Duncan and Robinson. What? But if they add Kevin Garnett to the 2001-2002 Spurs, I don't know how that goes. I'm going to be honest with you. You got 2 superstars going head up. It's on the role players at that point. Hey, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. You got 2 superstars who are pretty much going to cancel each other out. Hey, listen, bro. Nobody can tell me with confidence either team is going to win. Nobody. I don't care who you are. Nobody's going to tell me, oh, well, the Lakers are going to. No. That is going to be that's going to be a dogfight. That is a 7-game series, no doubt about it. But I can't call a winner. If Kevin Garnett, who's another top 5 player, if he joins the Spurs, I can't call it, man. I'm being honest. I can't call it. So, that's tough, man. That's really tough. But even with that, I still don't think San Antonio would have been a super team because Robinson was kind of out of his prime, and they didn't even have Manu Ginobili yet. And I don't think they had Bruce Bowen yet. I could be wrong. It might have been his first year. It might have been his first year there. No, it was. He did go there in 2002. But if they add Bowen and Garnett, and they added Steve Smith, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's tough.
I mean, that's how super teams are created.
Okay, but I have a question. So you have a team with Shaq and Kobe. Now Shaq went there as a free agent in '96. Kobe was drafted by Charlotte and traded.
He's basically drafted there,
right?
And then you got to jump through hoops to.
Right. So he wasn't. So they wasn't a super team, right? We do agree on that, right?
Yeah, they wasn't a super team.
So if the Spurs
and they weren't a super team because the role players, they were good, but they weren't high quality. You had 2 superstars, but the role players weren't high quality. So that's why they're not a super team. Listen, Robert Horry is good, but he's not a... You could probably make the argument he's a high quality role player, but... And even with Glenn Rice, right? When they had him, he was out of his prime. So, and I wouldn't call him a franchise player. So even if you want to look at either one of those, I don't think they were a super team. They just had 2 superstars and some really good to low quality role players. But the superstars put them over the hump. Because every other team that they played against either had 1 superstar or a star level player. They had 2. So, but to be fair, Kobe had to develop into that superstar, so nobody saw that coming. But they still had 2 superstars.
Can get another star with them only having 1 superstar and 2. I mean, I hate to say role players because a lot of people, they think role players, they thinking like
They think you got to be trash to be a role player or mid.
And that is the most disgusting stuff. Let me say something. If you have that mindset, you shouldn't be talking basketball. And this goes apart into the respect factor. And this is why I say the Lakers, the 01 Lakers is my favorite team of all time. They're in the conversation as being one of the greatest teams of all time. But bro, let me tell you, man. D-Fish? What? Rick Fox, Robert Horry, Devin George, Mark Madsen. Come on, Brian Shaw. Yo, those are my dudes right there, man. You crazy? I would never disrespect those guys, man. Come on, bro. I like all, and even later on, we had Trevor Ariza, Andrew Bynum, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom. Come on, Ron Artest, man. You crazy? Those are my dudes right there. Of course, we could be fair and keep it real about a player's career. But when those guys were on the team, bro, I got nothing but love and respect for all of those guys, man. Forget Shaq and Kobe. I'm talking about the other players. Come on, man. Jordan Farmar. Come on, man. Sacha Vujacic. Travis Knight. Tyronn Lue. Come on, bro. Those are my dudes right there, man. I like all the role players that was on those teams. Every last one of them. From the best to the worst. I don't ever disrespect role players. Never. I never disrespect role players. And just because you were a role player, that don't mean you didn't have a good career. You got plenty of good players that were role players, but they did what their job was. They did their job. Let me see where my charge is at. Yeah, they did their job, man. But come on, bro. Those are my guys right there, man. Especially, man, D-Fish, Rick Fox, and those boys. Come on, bro. That Lakers team, that early 2000s Lakers team, Man, I like all those guys, man. It was a team effort, but let's not get it twisted. We know who the superstars were, and they were bringing it home. The role players did their job, and I got nothing but respect for those boys. But the star players did their job as well, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't if you were a role player, you did not have a trash career. I don't like that type of logic. That's that disrespectful LeBron James nonsense. I don't like that. So just have more respect for players that they weren't superstars, stars, or even all stars, but they were good starter and bench players, and they did their job.
Yeah, Tony Parker.
Now you can have Dan.
Because I'll tell you what, right? People would like to talk about the '07 Cavs. I'll tell you this. If Boobie Gibson doesn't have that performance in Game 6, okay, and let's just say they go on to lose Game 7, we're not talking about that '07 run. We're not talking about that '07 Cavaliers run. So let's not do this disrespect of the role players. And this is where I disagree with Sid when we was in that live stream. He's talking about, oh man, Drew Gooden was trash. No, he was not. So he's kind of a hypocrite here. Sid, I agree with you with the Kevin Garnett thing, but you kind of a hypocrite, bro. Because when we were talking about role players, you called Drew Gooden and Big Z trash. So you're kind of a hypocrite, bro. I'm just being honest. I agree with you with Kevin Garnett. That was a gem. I would have brought that example up. But now, coming back around to it, and you're talking about role players not being trash, you kind of disrespected the Cavalier role players. I'm just saying. So it is what it is.
Damn good role players.
Yeah, but they wasn't superstar players.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when Pippen and Horace Grant for MJ.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Spurs had the opportunity to say, let's see, 2002, let's say they get an opportunity to get Ray Allen or Tracy McGrady.
Oh my God.
That's not a super team, because when you look at you got to remember, when we're looking at a team and them being a super team, this is why Kevin Durant's name is always going to come up, because he was in his peak when he joined that team. So we're talking about 01, 02. Now, yes, McGrady was a great player, probably a star level player, and so was Ray Allen. You can make the argument those guys are top 10, top 15, whatever. But those guys are not top 5 superstar caliber players. So I wouldn't really say that that's a super team. I wouldn't really say that. So I don't think adding those guys would make them a super team. It would be a really good team. I can't say super team just off of the criteria that I named earlier. But that would be very interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's over.
You would like, because you got Shaq and Kobe, like the two best players in the league on the same team. You would look at the Spurs as wrong just simply because they drafted Parker and Ginobili. If they got the opportunity to get a prime Tracy McGrady on their team, you would look at that as like, a negative as far as like.
I would look at it as a negative if you're trying to boost Duncan into these all-time great conversations and you're bringing up his championships. That's where I would have a problem with that. If we're talking about Duncan the player, phenomenal two-way player, but yes, I would penalize him just for the simple reason that wasn't organic. And we're not talking about drafting Ginobili and Parker. We're talking about acquiring another star-level player. Now, it wouldn't be as bad as having Kevin Garnett on the team, but it would still be kind of bad. And I do think that should be held in context. Because when we're talking about championships, the point is who had the hardest road to do it. Those are the championships. Look, Kelvin from behind the bench made the argument that if you throw Garnett on that 2011 team, they don't win the title. They might not even make the finals. And that's a good point. Because even though Garnett is a better two-way player, he wasn't being utilized in the clutch like a Dirk Nowitzki. So no, I do think it does depend on who you have in there. But yes, it should count because we can look and say, okay, well, you did add Ray Allen. It's not like Ray Allen either was already there and had to develop, or he wasn't really that developed and then got there. You're adding Ray Allen in 02. He was a beast by 2002. So yes. Now, maybe not, we can look and see, what titles did what and what. But for the most part, I don't think that should not be. And listen, it depends on what you value. I may be saying this, and listen, some people say, well, a super team is a super team. It depends on what you value. I'm not going to say that my opinion on it is the end-all, be-all. And we may respectfully disagree. And this is the case that I have with BigDogg and even Kobe Bryant Film Room. I respectfully disagree with the notion that it's only a super team if you have 3 franchise players. That's not true. Now, yes, I don't rock with LeBron James. You understand what I'm saying? That this is not me trying to minimize who he played with. No. Because I don't have him ranked. I'm just saying, to be fair, there have been some great teams that have had 2 superstars on it with great role players. Come on now, we can't overlook that. You can't tell me a Bobby Jones and a Maurice Cheeks both are making all first defensive teams that don't add up to a Chris Bosh. You can't tell me that. You can't. Both of their production is really good. No, maybe those 2 combined, you put them on the Toronto Raptors, they might not have the same success. Of course, you got to go with fit, the era. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, oh man, you put those 2, oh man, they're going to be in the semifinals. They're going to be battling it out with Boston. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that they're going to have some good success, especially if you pair them with a star player. That's all that I'm saying. But even if you don't, they're still going to have good success because what they bring as individual good players is very valuable. So even though, look, if you add even a good quality starter, matter of fact, let's go with this, right? What if you add those 2 with a Michael Redd, who's a good scorer, and you got 2 good defensive players? Maybe Milwaukee has good playoff success in 2004. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to sit up here and say that they're going to replicate the success of a great franchise player, but they're still good. We're not going to minimize what they bring to the game. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. So you can still, it really does depend. And that's why I say, like, just with the criteria that I laid out, I don't think adding Ray Allen or Tracy McGrady, they're just going to be boosted to the super team. Because both of those guys weren't. Now, even though I do think both of them, their defense is a little bit probably the most underrated part of their games, but they're not all defensive caliber defenders. They're just not. Maybe they turn into that by playing in that Spurs system, and those guys not having the scoring load on their shoulders. But even then, I don't think their physical attributes facilitate those guys being like really good defenders. Maybe McGrady, I'll give him that, but even with that, I don't think so. Because they would have done it already. They would have done it already. They would have been really, good, capable defenders. They were great on offense and, average on defense. They were good on offense, average on defense. So no, it's not the same as adding a KG who's great on offense and great on defense. So no, I don't think it's the same thing. But like I said, it depends, man. It's not a perfect science either. But for the most part, if you add two superstars and two high quality role players, that's going to be a super team that's going to dominate any conference. Believe that.
Super team thing goes.
See, I don't think it necessarily got to be. I would look at it as a negative if they failed to win.
Okay, I see that part, but it's like
if they win, you don't get no bonus points. You know what I'm saying? Like every
Exactly. And that's why I brought it back to the Sixers. Now, yes, I think that, listen, Moses Malone is underrated. Do not get me wrong. I redid my list. I got Moses Malone like around, maybe like 12 or 13-ish, somewhere around there. So this is not me, and rest in peace to Moses Malone. That brother was a dog. But what I'm saying is, if we're looking at championships, his championship is not more impressive than Hakeem Olajuwon's. 1983 compared to 1994 is not that impressive, just from a championship standpoint, because you were playing with another top 5 player, wherever you rank him at, in Dr. J, and some really good high quality role players. So no, just the road that they had to go through, it's not that impressive. It's not. That doesn't take away anything from Moses because he was a dog. But just comparing the championship aspect, I agree with Sid. We can knock off points. But championships is a team accomplishment, and you do have to have chips, but it is a team accomplishment. But we can look back and say which championships were impressive and which weren't. If Duncan adds KG, hey, we might be looking at his legacy a lot different. Come on now. If the Spurs add KG in 02, and let's just say for the sake of argument, they run off 5 in a row. From 03 to 07, they just dominate the league. That's not impressive. Bro, when Kevin Garnett joined you, it's not like you drafted him, or it's not like you made a trade for him when he was when he didn't really make a name for himself. No, you added him when he was at his peak. So if they run off 5 in a row, that's not that impressive. What do you think was gonna happen? Now, yes, Parker and Ginobili, for the most part, they did have to develop. But even with that, they still developed. And look, let's go with this, right? Duncan in 05 and 07 had his 2 worst NBA Finals performances. And you can even make the argument, since people like to say, oh, well, you can argue Gasol should have been Finals MVP over Kobe in 2010. Well, guess what? You can make the argument that Manu Ginobili should have been Finals MVP over Duncan in 05. And then Tony Parker won Finals MVP over Duncan in 07. Now, yes, it's one final series, and Duncan brings a lot more to the table, but the fact that Parker outplayed Duncan, it does say a lot. It's not the end-all be-all, but it does say a lot. Okay? Duncan did not have great series in neither one of those in 05 and 07. So, I'm just saying. Just adding Garnett, that would be crazy. And that wouldn't be that impressive. So, I just disagree with that notion. No, excuse me. I agree that we can look at but see, that's why we can't look at championships, because every ring, for the most part, is going to be different. That's like at the end. After you compare player to player, resume, whatever accomplishments, then at the end we look at, okay, how hard was it for you to win? What talent did you win with? We can look at those things. So it is what it is.
Championship is I grade championships on a different level depending on how difficult it is to get it. So
Exactly. And that's why I brought up, even though I think Olajuwon is a better two-way player, but even like I said, we're talking about the road to win a finals. Olajuwon had it harder than Moses Malone because he didn't have, or he didn't join. He wasn't playing with another top 5 player in the league. Now imagine this, right? What if Barkley, after '93, what if he goes to the Rockets? That's what that would be like. What if Barkley goes to the? Now I'm not saying it would have been a super team, because you didn't have high quality role players, so that wouldn't have been a super team. I don't think so. But if they add Barkley, bro, that's two superstars. It wouldn't have been that impressive, even though that's not a super team. But it wouldn't have been that impressive. It just wouldn't have. Then Olajuwon being the lone superstar, and him just having all-time performances in the playoffs and then in the finals. It wouldn't be the same. It just wouldn't be the same.
your road to winning is one aspect of it.
And then this is why you can't use the this is why you can't use the 3 franchise players thing, because Clyde Drexler and Barkley and Olajuwon were all on the same team. Now, yes, they were out of their prime, but that's not what BigDogg said. He said 3 franchise players. He didn't mention the time frame and their peak and their prime. Now, yes, LeBron took it over the top with 3 franchise players entering their peak. That's overkill, no doubt about it. But hell, even Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West, those are 3 franchise players. Jerry West was averaging 30, and Elgin Baylor was averaging 30. Those are 2 franchise players. I know they were playing on the same team. If you take them off of those teams, those are 2 franchise players. So then you add a Will Chamberlain, who's another franchise player. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It can't just pick and choose, and then you're not saying one team. Hell, even Boston. I think BigDogg made the argument, oh, well, Boston in '08, that wasn't a super team. Bro, that's 3 franchise players. The argument is 3 franchise players, not 3 that team up at a certain point. So I'm just saying, even with OKC, that's not 3 franchise players, because it at the point that they joined up, that was different. They were all drafted there, and then they developed and turned into franchise players. That's different from players developing and then joining. So we can't really use that for OKC. But Boston, the Lakers team, even that Houston team in '97, not '99, with Barkley, because Pippen is not a franchise player. Not '99, '97, when they had Clyde, Hakeem, and Barkley. 3 franchise players, not '99. But '97, you could say that, but I don't agree with that. They were out of their prime. They were out of their prime. So that's nonsense. Hell, look at the Lakers, right? In 2004, they had Malone was a franchise player. Then you had Kobe and Shaq. No, I disagree with that. That notion that it's dead set. Oh, it has to be 3 franchise players. No, you have 2. It's not 3 franchise players. It's 2 superstars and at least 2 high quality role players. Or you can mix and match, kind of 1 superstar, 2 stars. You can kind of mix and match it around just a little bit. But for the most part, 2 superstars, 2 high quality role players. Or a 3rd all-star, for the most part.
then the players you have is another aspect. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to make the argument with Clay and Draymond. I think, and once again, salute to KB because he's right. I'm not going to just sit up here and say that Clay and Draymond, you put them on another team, it's just going to, they're going to replicate the same success. No, they do look good playing alongside with Steph Curry. I would never deny that. Yeah, playing with Steph, oh, you're going to look great as a good, high-quality role player. Absolutely. But let's not make a mistake here. At the same time, we can't take away from their game. And their production is going to make a team, even with no stars, it's still going to make them stand out. Still. Depending on the talent. It just depends. If you have a good center and maybe some good shooters, they're going to look good. Now, yes, Steph Curry commands a lot of attention, and guess what? That's why he's number 8 on my all-time list. No doubt about it. Steph Curry's that dude. And yes, they look good, but I think without Steph Curry, they would still be good, at least good quality role players. So I'm not going to take that away from their game. I'm not. I don't think there would be, it wouldn't be clear that they would be Hall of Famers and all the rest of the stuff, but they would still have good careers, even if you take them off of Golden State. I'm not saying they would have all of these championships or whatnot, but they would still have good, solid careers where they contribute to a good team. That's all I'm saying. So it does depend on who you have on the team. It just does. And then, not to mention, when you add Kevin Durant, and then you already have a superstar, come on, bro. That's overkill. Of course you're going to dominate. Look, the Golden State was already beating the whole conference down. They were beating the conference. And that's why I said that's like the Spurs adding Kevin Garnett. What do you think is going to happen? Come on, bro. Not to mention the fact that the Spurs, at a certain point, they had better role players than the Lakers. So if you add KG, come on.
So if you got a bomb squad, of course you're supposed to roll over everybody. And if you win, it's just like, all right, well, yeah, you won. Everybody expected it.
But
Exactly. This was the point that I was trying to make with Kevin Durant. Now, when they first of all, they were now look, leading up to them adding Kevin Durant, they came out of nowhere. So I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh man, they were the favorite. No, they came out of nowhere. Nobody saw that. Hell, nobody saw them winning 73 games. Now, yes, they won 67 in 2015, but they overachieved in a tough-ass conference. And then they did it again. But, bro, let's be fair here. After they added Durant, it's like, man, ain't nobody beating these dudes. I'm not saying 2016 and 2015, oh, man, they were unbeatable. No. But 2017, when they added Durant, yeah, that made the situation a lot better for Golden State. And they were automatically penned to win the title. So, come on.
I just
It's
feel
kind of like it's kind of like when LeBron and them all got together and they lost that first year. It's like, dog, well, what happened? Y'all created a super team and y'all still lost. That's a negative.
But see, this is what
And
I'm
had
saying.
they won,
Oh, my fault. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but see, this is the difference. Bosh, LeBron, and Wade, we already knew what they was. LeBron and Wade was second and third best.
See, and this is where BigDogg is. He doesn't apply the same context to when KD joined. Like I said earlier in the video, if KD joins in 2012, when Steph Curry, Clay, and Draymond have not made a name for themselves, that's different. They already made a name for themselves already by 2016. So you can't say that. And like I said, this is not me trying to boost up LeBron, but you can't say that for LeBron and not say that for Kevin Durant. You can't. You can't just gloss over that. Draymond and Clay were good, great, high quality role players. And then Steph was a superstar. So we knew what it was. Then you add another superstar in Kevin Durant. Come on. You can't hold that against LeBron and not hold that against Durant and Steph. Both of them. I don't care who joined who conspired what. You can't hold it for one player, not the other. That's a little bit of the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. And that's why I disagree. You can't just say, oh, well, bro, if we're going to say that LeBron and D Wade were both top 5 players, then we got to say Durant and Steph were both top 5 players. Now, yeah, Bosh ranked higher than Clay and Draymond, but both of those players, their production is really good. And you can make the argument that it's going to equal up to a Chris Bosh. I'm not saying perfectly it is, but you can make the argument. It's not that far off. It's really not. Now, they probably wouldn't have the same success because Bosh is a true leader as far as, with his gameplay and all of that. I'm not saying that. And neither one of them, to me, besides Draymond being a vocal leader, that's not going to be enough because you don't have best player leadership. You don't. Yeah, you're the vocal leader, but if you ain't doing nothing on the court and you don't have another great player, so what? So I'm not saying that they would, but they would compliment any star in the league, no doubt about it. That's why I made the argument with Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was an all-star, borderline star. You add Clay and Draymond, they're going to look good alongside Joe. They are. I'm not saying perfectly. I'm just using it as an example. It could be the wrong example. That's fine. But I'm just making a point, okay? It's not a perfect science. Depends on the players' and chemistry. But I don't want to take away from what Clay and Draymond brings to the table. I don't. They're really great, high-quality role players, man. There were times when Clay took over games. Game 6 Clay, we're not going to do that. We're not going to minimize Clay and Draymond because they're not franchise players. So what? They can equal up and bring great contribution and kind of together they can be a third star. So I'm just saying.
Players in the league behind.
I'm just saying if you're gonna hold LeBron to that standard of what him and Wade were top 5, then you have to hold that same standard to Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. But like I said, Steph Curry still did a lot more without Kevin Durant, and he changed the game. I agree with you, Big Dog. Steph Curry changed the game. I just don't put Kevin Durant in these top discussions either because he hasn't done nothing without Steph Curry. And he had the same opportunity as Steph Curry. Possibly even better. But I just think to not count that against Steph Curry, I disagree with that. I'm not saying Steph got to be outside the top 10. Steph is top 10. Top 5, that's debatable. Depending on what you value, that's debatable. But top 10, no doubt about it. That's not even close. He's top 10 for sure. So, and I still can't remember who's number 9 on my list. I got to look at it, but he's top 10 for sure. No doubt about it.
Kobe. Bosh is one of the top power forwards in the NBA, all in their
Right.
prime. They all join forces to go together. The difference is that Tim Duncan, he got drafted. He was number 1 pick. He was prime Tim Duncan, best power forward in the league, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the league, whatever.
Yeah.
Lee and Parker both was drafted. They both became great, but they was drafted.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so now that they drafted, I'm speaking that on the fan perspective. They both was drafted. They played with Tim Duncan. So now it's like, okay, so you drafted these guys. You did a good job drafting. So I would look down on y'all if y'all was able to bring in a Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce or another great player of that caliber.
Now, let me say this also. Matter of fact, I had Steph at number 9. Excuse me. I didn't have him at number 8, but I did have him at number 9. I have him behind Magic and Bird. But, like I said, that takes away nothing from Steph. Steph is top 10. I have been convinced that Olympic performance, that 2023 title, him effectively changing the game, I think that Steph Curry is top 10 for sure. No doubt about it. But like I said, I just think that if you add a look, no, this is what I wanted to say. And I agree with KB. Just like we say that Clay and Draymond look good alongside Steph Curry, who's an all-time great player, the same can be said about Parker and Ginobili. They both look great playing alongside Tim Duncan. And that's why I said it's not a perfect science. But those are two great quality role players. High quality role players. You put Parker and Ginobili, imagine putting them with Kevin Garnett. That's still going to be a good pairing. I'm not saying they're going to run off and win three out of 5. They're not going to have the same success as Duncan with Duncan. Because I don't think Garnett is on... I don't think he's a better player than Duncan. I just don't. But like I said, I do think that Kevin Garnett would have some good success with those guys on the team. I'm not saying they're going to do everything that Duncan was doing, leading that team. No. But they would have a good amount of success. They might win a championship. Depends on the team. But to minimize their impact because they play with Duncan. See, BigDogg is trying to frame it. Oh, well, you can't minimize it because they got drafted there. Okay. Well, you can't minimize because they put up, they were a great talent with the players. We can't say, oh, you're overvaluing them because they play with an all-time great. Okay, and you're undervaluing them because if we put another superstar, they're going to play good. They're going to play good alongside another star. So it's not like they're not good players. They are good players on their own. They're just going to look better with a star. Yeah, of course. That's how role players are. They're going to look better with superstars. But, and I'm not saying you could just put any superstar. It depends. But if you put them with a good superstar, they're going to have good success. That's what I think.
Around that time in the prime, simply because y'all drafted well.
I'm not gonna look down upon you, but like I said, you don't impress me. Like I think you get the notion that I automatically see things as a negative. It's unimpressive. It's not negative. It's just unimpressive. It's a negative if you lose, but it's unimpressive if you win.
Right. But I still say.
And then when you think about like those years that I said, and then you said T-Mac, that was a real good one. Because where do you think T-Mac was in 2002? He was I think that was his second time leading the league in scoring. No, that was his first year of it. He was like top 5 player of the league.
No, if I'm not mistaken, I think Allen Iverson led the league in scoring. And it's funny because AI, he didn't even make first team All NBA. But I think that's because he only played like 60-something games. So he did get hurt. But no, it was 2003 and 2004. Both of those years, those were the years that T-Mac led the league in scoring. So he's just off by 1 year. But yeah, T-Mac was phenomenal. I just think that even though defense was an underrated part of his game, I just don't think he was good enough to close the gap if you add him on a team enough to be called a superstar or a star. I just don't think so. I don't think so. He's a borderline star, but superstar, I can't give him that.
At that time, and you said Tim Duncan,
and that's why I don't think that would have been a super team. That's like on the borderline of a super team. But if they add Ray Allen or T Mac, I don't know. I don't know. I know at the time McGrady was an improved player. That's a tough one. It could have been a super team. I don't know. I don't know.
It was already like a top 5 player. So now
Right.
you got 2 top 5 players in the league joining up on an already.
No, no, no. No, Sid. I disagree with you there, bro. To me, I don't think McGrady was more impactful than Jason Kidd. Nope. I don't think so. And you can say what you want about the roster, but listen. The fact that, look, McGrady did blow a 3-1 lead. I know he didn't have the talent that Kidd had, but Kidd turned that franchise around. So I just slightly disagree. You might could put McGrady top 10, but top 5 in that era, nope. I disagree with that. I disagree. I think it was Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, KG, and Jason Kidd. I disagree. Top 10, you might have that. Guys like him, AI, maybe Weber. You know what I'm saying? Guys like that. Yeah. But top 5, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Pretty good ass squad.
But I still don't think it's a super team because, like I said, like the Spurs, they management, they did a good job drafting. I feel like if they're able to get a free agent, it's not the same to me as just 3 prime franchise players linking up.
Listen, if a team drafts well, yeah, you can't hold that against them. But it's not about what the team drafted. It's how did they play. See, and that's the whole thing. Did they play well? That's the whole thing. Did the role players step up and play great basketball? And yes, they did. Ginobili and Parker played really good basketball. Yes, they were next to Duncan, but they were still good players on their own. And they stepped up, they sacrificed, and they played within their role. No, they're not going to be franchise players because they already have one. But at the same time, they're not just that don't make them bad players or below average. They're still good quality. No, they're never going to be stars or superstars. No, I don't think so. What Ginobili and Parker bring to the table, I don't think they're ever going to be stars or superstars. And I don't ever think with their skill set that they could lead a team effectively. But if you put them next to a superstar, they're going to play well. So it's not about if you drafted them, it's how well did they play. And they turned into really good role players. So that's what I think.
It's just not the same to me, man.
I mean, I understand that. I understand. I mean, some people, I guess. Well, I'm guessing where you coming from because what that I'm guessing that's your definition, right? That it takes 3 franchise players to link up on a team,
Right.
and you basically strictly have that as your definition.
Yeah, because like that's why I say ask people about OKC, right? Let's just say James Harden never leave, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden all stay there, all till they get to they peak.
And see, this is another thing. And I didn't even know it's already 2 hours into the video. I didn't even make it through the whole damn video, but I'm gonna end it soon. But here's the deal, right? This is what I think about that whole comment of what he said with the OKC thing. See, this is the problem, right? Who is the system catered to? Now, yes, we look at Harden from what he did, but I don't think he turns into that because the system was not based around was not based around James Harden. Mainly the system was based around Kevin Durant. Mainly. Yes, of course, Westbrook, who was a good number 2. But Kevin Durant was first team All NBA, scoring titles. The system was catered to Durant. Yes, he's efficient, which helped, but for the most part, it was catered to Durant. So, no, I don't think Harden has the same outlook that everybody has now if they would have stayed together. I disagree with that. That is wishful thinking. Oh, well, Harden would have been great. No. In that team, in that role, No, I don't think he would have thrived the way he did. I just don't think so. Part of it was the money, and I think another part of it was that Harden wanted to be the best player of his own team. And look at how that turned out. He was a star. I'll give him a star. He was a star level player. Winning scoring titles, he got MVP, you know, leading his team to the playoffs, at least to the Western Conference Finals a few times. Now, he couldn't get them over the hump, but he did lead his team to the Western Conference Finals a few times. So that's a star level player. So no, I don't see Harden having the same success because he's coming off the bench. The system is not catered to Harden. It's just not. That's why a part of it was he wanted to prove that he can be his own player and not be in the shadow of Durant and Westbrook, along with the fact that they weren't giving him the desired amount of money. So no, I don't think it would have been the same. And this all goes back to the role player thing. It's like, yeah, well, even though, you guys want to say that, oh, well, they look good playing with Duncan. Well, we never seen them without Duncan. What if they turn out to be better than with Duncan? Or better without Steph? And also, you're forgetting, which I even forgot up until now, Iguodala was on that team, who was another good quality role player. Bogut was on that team. Granted, he was older and he had injuries, but I'm just saying, even Livingston, who overachieved and became a good quality role player. So it wasn't just them. They had Iggy, they had Bogut, they had Livingston. These guys are not superstars or all-stars or nothing, but they help within their roles for the team. Even Barbosa, that was a really good team. Then they added Durant. So, and they even had David West at one point. So I'm just saying, it's not a perfect science, but Big Dog, you mentioned, well, KB mentioned that they're gonna look good playing alongside an all-time great. I agree, but then that's taken away from what they bring to the table. Because yes, they look great, but they can also look good if you pair them with another star. It just depends on the fit. So it is what it is.
They still OKC. Like, I'm not gonna call them a super team simply because OKC knew how to draft well, and all they players developed into some of the greatest players of all time because they had to grow and develop together. It's not like you can guarantee how great they're going to be. Now,
but then again, see, that's a little bit unfair, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we didn't look at that team when they were playing together. Nobody saw that. Look, Westbrook is phenomenal, but nobody saw Westbrook doing that triple-double stuff with Kevin Durant. See, and that's the thing that makes this conversation a little bit unfair, because we saw those three players on their own. Compared to Ginobili and Parker, we never saw them play outside of San Antonio. In their prime, in their peak. We never saw that. And do not mention Tony Parker with Charlotte. That is nasty work. Okay? Tony Parker and Charlotte, we ain't doing that. So I don't even want to hear it. Don't even go there. Alright? But to be fair, just saying, KB mentioned, oh, well, they look good playing with Duncan. Okay, we never seen them without Duncan. I think with their skill set, they would have played good. Not superstar or nothing like that, but they would have played good. They're not on the level of a Harden and a Westbrook, but they would have played good. And they could complement pretty much any superstar star in the league. Pretty much. They could. Because they're unselfish. Teamwork. Buying into the system. Come on now. So, when we talk about Westbrook, Harden, and Durant, that is a little bit different because they were able to showcase their skills being the best players on their teams, along with being naturally gifted more so than a Parker and a Ginobili. They were more naturally gifted, naturally more athletic, better court vision. That's just the case. better scoring ability. That's just the case. But I think it's unfair to say, oh, well, they were drafted. Yeah, they were drafted and they were playing alongside an all-time great, but they still produced. That's all I'm saying.
Now, if you take them in their prime and they all link up together, then you already know what they are. You didn't have to watch them grow and develop or nothing.
Oh, and another thing. Harden did join up with Kevin Durant. So it's not like they didn't play again. So all of this about, oh well, they were drafted, then they eventually, split up and all that. Well, they did play together. Now, maybe James Harden wasn't the same player, and I'll give you that, but they did join back up. So when James Harden was at least a star level player, he joined up with Kevin Durant. Back up with Kevin Durant. So it is what it is.
Oh yeah, I mean that takes the guesswork out of it.
Right. So it's like I can't really see it. I just can't see it as a super team simply because players got drafted and they just got good. Or great rather.
I'm with you, but man, had that team stayed together, boy oh boy.
But see, that's the thing. We're looking at it from the point of view that what they did as individual players, being the best players on their team, we're looking at and being the main focus. We're looking at it from that standpoint and saying, oh man, if they would have stayed together, who knows? No. The system was catered to Durant. Durant was the best player on the team. So yeah, OKC, they sold big time. You know what I'm saying? They sold the bag. They blew the bag. Big time. But let's not do that where we're grading them as being individually talented. Because yes, they are, but when they were all together, granted, I know they were entering their prime, Durant was the best player and the system was catered to Durant. Not to mention you also had Ibaka on that team. So I just disagree with that. We're looking at it like, oh man, they went on to do great things on. Okay, well you can say the same thing about other good role players. If Parker and Ginobili on their own, I'm not saying they would have been Westbrook and Harden on their own, but they probably would have had good careers. It just depends on the team, on the system. But they would have been good players. Not to the level of those guys, but they would have been good players, maybe making an All-NBA third team, second team, leading their team to the first round, probably getting bumped, maybe a second round. I can definitely see that because they played unselfish basketball. And they were still skilled. So it is what it is. But hey man, this video is a little bit over 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end it right now. And but yeah, I just wanted to give kind of my rebuttal and my just my genuine thoughts on this. I'm not on the camp of calling everybody a damn super team. And BigDogg does mention it later. Like, somebody said the Pistons were a super team because they won. Like, get out of here with that. They were not no damn super team because they had Ben and Rasheed Wallace. No, they were not. I don't subscribe to that. It's very particular. But like I said, for the most part, for me, how I'm going to grade a super team, 2 superstar level players combined with at least two high quality role players. And then you gotta go by age and all the rest of that when they joined up. It's not a perfect science, but for the most part, that's how I think it should be graded. That's how I think it should be graded. But anyway, ladies and gents, that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you all liked the video. Go subscribe to BigDogg. Go sub to Threes on Fire, Sid, you know what I'm saying, Behind the Bench, KB Room, my boy Who Is Hendo, the Sporting Page, who has a lot of good historical context videos, you know what I'm saying. Shout out to other people that be in the chat, Cheyenne, Rat God, my boy DBZ, you know what I'm saying. Even go sub to DFJ Hoops, you know what I mean. yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this. You know, nothing's ever gonna be a perfect science, but I think with that criteria, because we've seen it in NBA history, you could still say that certain teams were a super team. But I'm not of the belief that, oh my God, every team is no, it does not work like that. It never will. You gotta have at least two superstars on the team, and then we gotta talk about the role players, and then we gotta talk about age, prime, peak, and all the rest of that stuff. So I just think, like I said, I think that LeBron just, it was on steroids what he did, and it was unfortunate because, listen, I give LeBron a lot of flack. I'll say this, man. Physically, he had all the tools, in my opinion, to be an all-time great. All the physical tools to be an all-time great and win a championship without having to stack the deck. I'm a firm believer of that. I know I say he's unrankable, but just to be fair, because at one point I did have respect for him when he was in Cleveland the first time. Listen, at that point in time, he had the physical tools to put a team over the hump with his play. But mentally, he caved into the pressure. And then he did what he did and eventually had that whole Miami experience, you know? But I just think having good role players and two superstars, you can count that as a super team. It might not be three franchise players, but two good role players can really help two superstars a lot. So it is what it is. You know, you can agree, disagree, that's fine. Like the video, dislike the video, that's fine. But like I said, I just wanted to give my review and my reaction to this. I kind of agree with BigDogg, but mostly I disagree. I respectfully disagree with BigDogg and KB as far as this topic goes. But, you know, it is what it is. But that's just me. So, once again, hope you all enjoy. I hope you all are doing very well. And I hope you all take very good care of yourselves. I gotta show some love to the gaming channel. I'll be back on that soon. Maybe tomorrow or whatnot. I don't know. But I just had to speak on this. Bruh, if KG joins the Spurs, that's game over. That's GG. That's GG. So, it is what it is. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in. I most certainly appreciate that. Thank you for your viewership, your subs, and all the rest of that good stuff. Even if I never reach 1,000, 2,000, whatever subs, the small community that we have, it's a good one. And like I said, this is just a respectful disagreement on the topic of super teams with KB and BigDogg. I think a super team, once and for all, two superstars, top 5 players, and some high quality role players. But that's going to do it for J-Rock Sports Talk. I'm out. And yeah, I'll be back for another one pretty soon. So if I hear something, you know, it is what it is. But that's going to do it for this one. Salute to everybody. And I'm out of here. See ya.